Hi, my friends. So every year I try to make my own New Year's outfit. And I say try because like most of the time I end up being really rushed for time and then feeling like I have nothing to wear. So I thought I'd learn from hard word. So I thought I'd learn from previous. So I thought I'd learn from the last few years and start in early December. The thing is though, I decided to make myself a corset and I never made one before, and it turned out to be a little bit more tricky than I thought. Also, I didn't get my boning on time, but I did actually manage to wear it because the only thing that's not finished is the inside. So I need to close up the raw edges and attach a waistband, which I've gotten this in black, but it's on the inside, it doesn't matter. And I thought, why not sew that up today and then talk you through how I made this thing. So the pattern that I used was from Red Threaded, and I really like their pattern. It's a corset from the 1880s, and I really like that they had the seam line marked on so that I could just cut the pattern on the seam line to be as accurate as possible. I graded the pattern a little bit before I did that though, from the waist down, to make a little bit more room for the hips. And I should have kept the seam allowance on the top and the bottom because the edges are bound, and so it just would have made a little bit more sense for me to keep the seam allowance on the top and the bottom, but it turned out fine. And then I went on to make the mock-up, and this is how the mock-up looked, and I was quite happy with it. The only thing was that I knew I didn't want to wear a shirt underneath, and so I needed to bring the neckline up a little bit more. I also ended up actually taking away most of the extra space I left for the hips. It turned out I didn't need it. And then here you can see my second mock-up. Like one side is with the first and the other is with the second mock-up. And I just needed to bring the neckline a little bit further up, I felt, and then make an adjustment to the back because it was nearly closing up. But what I actually should have done is used the mock-up a little bit more, walked around in it. Definitely I should have made it out of staple fabric because it ended up way differently in couture, which I ended up using for the interior of the fabric. But yeah, I thought I was good to go ahead with the actual corset in the nice fabric. So I just went ahead and altered the neckline a little bit further, and this is where another one of my mistakes was, because I should have made it a little bit higher and then put it a little bit back in, and not as much as I did, but instead I put it a little bit in and then made it higher, which made it go even further in on the top, and as you'll see later on, it didn't fit quite nice there. Then I went on to the couture, the inside of the corset. So I put my pattern pieces on, and then I drew around the edges and marked all the stuff that I needed to mark, like the grain line and where the boning was going to go. And I also marked every centimeter on the sides of the pattern pieces, just to make it a little bit easier for myself to sew it up later. And after I cut out all the couture pieces, I laid them on my nice fabric and cut those out as well. And as you can see, I only have scrap fabric, but I really love this fabric. It's so nice. You'll see in a second. It's leftover fabric from the Norwegian national costume from the shop that I work in, and I absolutely love the fabric, but it does fray a lot. So after I cut out all my pattern pieces, I zigzagged around all the edges so that it wouldn't fray on me. And then I pad stitched the coutil together with the nice fabric so that the two fabrics could act as one. This is where I started to venture up from the pattern instructions because my fabric has a lot of patterns to it. I felt like it would look a little bit odd to just sew them up and then on the seam you would just like have a lot of patterns crashing. So I wanted to cover it up somehow, and then I decided why not to cover it up with boning channels, and the boning can go on the outside. And so that's what I did. So I sewed up these three pattern pieces together first hand basting them using the little centimeter marks that I drew on earlier, and then sewing it down first with like a long stitch to make sure like everything looks nice. I can remove the basting, and then shortening the stitch length down right on top of the first stitches that I did. That way it's a little bit stronger as well. And then pressed it open and trimmed away the excess seam allowance and zigzagged again. Now this was a mistake, and it was a mistake because I hadn't made the mock-up properly. Like I said, I should have walked around in it more and made it out of teal. The corset actually ended up like being a little bit small, and so I didn't have a lot of seam allowance to work with to make it bigger. But yeah, that's what I did anyways. And so the next step was to sew back panel together with the rest. Instead of sewing it wrong sides together, I sewed it right sides together, and just made a little bit more sense to me to do that way with the back panel, because there's not any boning pieces going on top of the seam line, but it is going right next to the seam line for the support for the grommet. I don't know if you call it the grommet when it's hand-sewn. Anyways, once that was done, I could attach the busk to the front pieces, and I just used the busk that I used for my mock-up, and no need to like waste busk for a mock-up, right? So just cut that out, and I just drew on the busk facing where I needed to leave some space open to push the busk through, and sew that up, press it down, and put the busk in and sew it around. For the other side of the busk, I just sewed the facing down and then marked where I needed to make a hole for the little ends to poke through, and making the little holes were such a pain, but I did it. And I wish I hadn't given up on making it all the way through the facing and the main fabric, because I think that might be where I had some of the issues with the fit of the corset. But I gave up and I put the busk through like this, and then sewed around the edges of the busk to secure it in place. And I definitely recommend going really slow and really close to the edge here. I had to seam rip the first time because it was a little bit too far away from the busk. As you can see with this fabric, you can kind of see where the previous stitches went. It did fade away over time though, so it was fine. But yeah, definitely go slow around the busk. But once the busks were attached, I could go ahead and sew up the front pieces together with the rest of the corset. And I desperately wanted to try it on, but I hadn't made the holes for the back yet. So when I made the mock-up, I tried to put in metal grommets, but I don't know how to do it. Like, I struggle so much with it. So I decided that I would just sew the holes open with whip stitches like you can see here. And I really like it, but it did take me 6 hours to complete all the holes. So yeah, if you know how to do metal grommets, I would probably go with that. Once the holes in the back were all finished, I could finally go ahead and try it on, and I was so excited. And you guys, I was so let down because, as you can see, the top doesn't fit at all around my bust. So yeah, I needled a little bit, trying to make it fit, taking out some of the seam allowance that I talked about earlier that I wish I hadn't trimmed away. And yeah, just fixing the bust a little bit, but I did manage. Then I sewed on the lines that I drew on for the boning channels, as well as sewing on the ribbon on top of the seam allowance. I also closed off the bottom of the corset so that I could put the boning in without it going through. And then I tried it on again with a little bit more boning this time. Now, at this point, I thought that I needed to make a shirt to wear underneath the corset, even though I had planned not to, because I was tightening the corset too hard, and also because of some patterning issues that I should have discovered if I'd worn the mock-up longer. So I thought, like, the neckline is a little bit too high, as well as it's like just too tight on the top. So I thought if I take off a little bit of the top, and those issues will be better. So I removed all of the added neckline that I've added to the pattern, and then I drew the new line on the corset, and then I sewed a line over that drawn line and cut all of my boning to the perfect size and inserted them into the channels. I did this before I cut away any of the extra neckline because the fabric is burning so much to be able to zigzag right away after I cut away the neckline. So after I inserted the boning, cut away the excess at the top and zigzagged, the last thing to do was to cover the bottom and top edge with the binding, which I just used the same binding as I did for the boning channels. And I just machine sew them on the wrong side of the fabric and then hand stitch them down on the right side like I show you here. I should have used a shorter stitch length on the right side of the fabric, but this was literally New Year's Day and I was supposed to leave like at that moment, so I just finished it up as quickly as I could, and that was it. That was how I wore it on New Year's Eve and where I picked up today. So now I've finished with the waistband on one side of the corset, and I just need to tack down the seam allowance on the front and the back, as well as finish the other side, and then we can try it on. This is how the corset turned out, and I'm so happy with it. There are, of course, some things that I would like to change, like some of the neatness in the hand stitching, as well as some of the fitting issues. And I don't know, maybe I should also install a hook right here to fasten the threads. What do you guys think? Oh, and another thing, like styling wise, do you guys think that I should wear the trousers underneath or on top? My friend group is split down the middle, and I always thought that I would like make a pair of trousers to go on top. Obviously I didn't have time, and with these pair of trousers I personally think that it looks best underneath, just to show off the corset a little bit more. But yeah, what do you guys think? Anyways, that's it for now. I need to get inside. It's absolutely freezing out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!